Welcome. My name is Ron Wills, and this is the Big Idea podcast presented by the National Association of Business Owners and Entrepreneurs. Today's guest is Marty, Janis, President and CEO of Atlantic Services Group. And today we're going to talk about the impact of COVID and in the pandemic on his business. But before we do, Marty, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your company?
Hi, Ron, good morning, and thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity. Atlantic Services Group was founded in 1985, kind of straight out of college. I formed the business, and today it's comprised of several businesses. The name itself, Atlantic Services Group, is not a great name because it doesn't say anything. So what I thought made sense when I created that name, I look back on if I knew then what I know now. With that said, we have different divisions. We have our Atlantic Parking Division, where we operate, manage, and lease parking garages throughout the DC metro area. We have about 85 to 90 facilities we operate. We have a valet division where we do special events, some contract locations, events at country clubs, jobs of that nature. Then we also have a transportation company, Atlantic Transportation, where we provide daily shuttle, kind of the office to metro type thing, university to satellite parking lots, overflow parking, and special events and sporting events. And then we have two other, I'd say smaller businesses, but not really we have a maintenance company that does garage facility maintenance called Impact Maintenance Group. And then we also have a business, which I laugh when I say I have it because it's not me, is we have an auto and bus repair business called Zoom Auto and Fleet. And the reason why is we do our own repairs for our buses. I like to integrate everything, so we are doing the work ourselves. It maintains quality and control, hopefully keeps some pricing down, and then it creates opportunities to grow those businesses. So for example, Zoom, where Atlantic Transportation was 100% of its revenue for some time, it now represents about 20% of our revenue.
Okay.
So I like these models where you grow organically and then you build it out from there if it makes sense.
Good. And I know you've had amazing growth with your company, and that's the topic of this series of podcasts. And it's about challenges to small business growth, and they come from all different angles. You had mentioned that the pandemic has really changed a lot of things for you. Can you give us an idea of how it's impacted you and your company?
How long do you have, Ron? So yeah, it's interesting, and every challenge creates opportunity. I think if you approach it properly, as with everybody, the pandemic was unbelievably impactful on our business. Parking volume went down 95%. Valet business went basically to zero. Transportation was down about 80%, and you had to address it. And the first way I addressed it is I made sure, to the best of our ability, we kept everyone working and whole in our company, the employees. I always look at it, we have three customers. We have the building owner or the property manager or the event host. We have, of course, the parker, the shuttle rider, the ridership. And then the most important client is our employee. And so if your employee isn't happy, no one else is going to be happy. So that was our initial focus of, okay, we've got to work through some business things and we got to keep everyone whole and figure out how to keep them working. So there was a lot of deployment of people in different ways that fortunately worked very well. And even while business was down, we were managing as efficiently and as tightly as possible while trying to maximize anything and everything we could for our owners, whatever that looked like. And for some time, it was out of our control. Once we got out of that, as we are now coming out of COVID and things are starting to come back, and as you know, we've had starts and stops due to each various strain of the virus that would come about, is we're faced with new and different challenges that I haven't seen during my 37 years of being in business, almost 38 years. And it's interesting, when the other challenges happened, 9/11, you don't know what the world's going to look like, and the recovery in this market was fairly quick. Obviously, recessionary challenges, there's a cycle to it, and you recover, and you don't shut down. This was a shutdown. And so coming out of this, there's all these new challenges. And the three that stand out to me is, number one, the uncertainty of the back to work, back to office. Yes, offices are opening. Some have said they're going to be 100%, and they're nowhere near it. Interestingly, in our space, there's two things you look at. You look at key card usage, which there's great data on that, which it hovers around 40% of key cards are being used. And Castle provides a report for that every few weeks. And then there's, of course, our numbers that show where are we really. Our numbers are higher than that. And we think that's because less people are taking Metro. That's the only thing that really makes sense. People are coming in for shorter stints during the week, 1 or 2 days.
Okay, that's interesting. So, yeah, and you know what? It's perfectly logical, but I didn't think of it. But people were taking Metro less because of the pandemic and concerns about being infected, do you think?
I'm not, because I'm in the parking business, I drive everywhere, and I encourage everyone to do the same. I believe so. I mean, what I read is yes, ridership is way down. Metro has a huge campaign to bring people back, which is, I think they're doing a really good job of doing it in their commercials and all their advertising. So it makes, I think, logical sense that that's what people are afraid of, just being in confined, closed spaces. People are afraid to go to an office because of it. Imagine getting in a train car. So I think that's why we're realizing higher numbers than we normally would. And but there's still a lot of challenges, 70% or 75%. And as we're, looking out into the future over the next 6 to 12 months, maybe 85 to 90% of pre-COVID numbers, that's a huge impact on your bottom line, whether it's ours or our property owners or our clients. So, with that comes the challenges of hiring. How many people do you need to bring back? How busy is the garage really going to be? Budgeting goes along with that. How do you budget when you really don't know? Every budget we've been doing budgets for 2.5 years since the start of all this in mid-March of 2020. And we haven't been right on anything. No one has, because everything that shows what might happen and should happen is not happening. So I would say the uncertainty of back to office impacts budgeting, impacts hiring. And in our bus business, how much equipment do we order? We turn over equipment every year. How much do we need to buy? If contracts are coming back with 2 buses instead of 4 buses, how much do we buy? Which then goes the whole set of the second area is the supply chain, which everyone's been reading about. It's brutal, especially in our transportation business. Parking wise, and all the other businesses, we can order enough supplies out into the future that if it takes 3 or 4 months to get them, you have enough in stock. Buses are a different story. If you have a new contract coming on board, or if you need to turn over equipment, you want to buy a new bus now, Ron, first of all, it's 25 to 30% higher than what it was 2 years ago, the price of the equipment, which then impacts your internal budgeting and pricing. That those contracts are set priced. And then it's the lag time, 6 months to buy a new bus, to bring a new bus on board. So if you get a new contract and they want to start in 60 days, it's an interesting challenge.
I got a question for you. Because, you're talking about all these changes, and, when a person on the outside like myself thinks in terms of parking, you don't realize all the complexity of the things that you have to deal with here. Tell me a little bit, like your impression or your working with your employees sort of pre-COVID to post-COVID. How are they doing mentally? How are they doing focusing on the job? Do you notice any differences between, do you have to manage differently? Do or what's changed in the mix?
Actually, it's a great question, and one which in running my business, I put a lot of time into it with my people. We have amazing people. And everyone says that we have amazing people. And I say that with more energy and positivity now, because during COVID, I talked to a lot of employees. And when you talk to people and you learn more about what they're going through, your outlook on how you want to run your business and how you want the employees to be treated, how you want to understand what they're going through, it changes a lot. So there's much greater flexibility. There's, much greater, I think, honesty and communication back and forth. It's not they're just taking the day off because they need a mental day, but they never wanted to say that, so they call in sick. Maybe. Now it's, Marty, I need to take a day off.
Yeah.
Take it. You need it.
Yeah.
Kids at home, the flexibility of working from home in this when and where you can. We're in the service business. We need to be in front of people, and we need to address that and accommodate that. And we've grown much more flexible as a result of all this.
And I know with my clients, when they place employees as part of their customers, and when they think that way, like you had mentioned earlier, it really is, it's amazing. It's a game changer in companies when you make that switch from, it's not just customers out there that are buying your products and services, but it is also your employees. And I use this term care and feeding. The care and feeding of your employees, their mental health, how they work together, how they understand and appreciate the firm and what you are doing for them in providing employment opportunities and growth within your company. I just over and over again, it's one of the keys to success in business. And it was great to hear that you just brought that out as one of the key factors about how you manage your company.
I appreciate that. From day one, I've always felt that way. And the more I listen and learn and grow, I'm learning every day. I've been doing this a long time, and today is better than yesterday. I learned something today that I didn't know yesterday, and that's my outlook. And a lot of that is listening. My father gave me a great line a long time ago: never listen yourself into trouble. And it's very true. And I think that comes with just time. You listen more the older you get. And so, yeah, they're at the front. They're out there greeting the customer every day. The parking garage attendant, the manager, the bus, your shuttle driver. That's the first, introduction to the workday that people have. The first person they see. Maybe even before, maybe Starbucks is the first person they see, or the coffee, when they pick up in the morning. But then it's their parking attendant. It could start their day off, and they do. And so it's really important. And I have a lot of appreciation for what they do, how hard their job is. I mean, I've been in this business a long time. When I started working in parking garages and doing valet before, and early on, spent a lot of time in that. So I know what they go through a little bit, and I have huge admiration and respect for how they do their jobs.
So I often finish with this statement and then a question. Well, thank you very much for being on the Big Idea podcast. Really enjoyed it. And best of luck to you and your company.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate you having me on and giving me an opportunity just to talk about what I love doing every day.